Live. Good morning, good morning, good morning, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Bunker Office Hours, a weekly live show brought to you by the team at Bunker Labs, a national network of veteran and military spouse entrepreneurs dedicated to helping the veteran, entrepreneur, and military spouse community start and grow their own business. I'm your host, Iron Mike Stedman, joined by my co-host, Amy Morrison, and our special guests today, Sarah and Dustin from Hustle Trucks. What's going on, team? How's everybody doing today?
Good morning.
Good morning. Fantastic.
Rise and grind. Justin's drinking his healthy shake. You said you got your stuff from your home garden. What's in it?
Strawberries, bananas, which we don't grow, spinach, ginger, flaxseed, broccoli sprouts, lemon verbenum, and mint, peppermint. And the last one grown in our house.
Man, we got to take care of ourselves, y'all. If you've been paying attention to office hours, the last like 2 or 3 episodes, I have been emphasizing physical and mental and spiritual wellness, meditating, eating healthy, working out, because entrepreneurship is hard. I'm telling you, it is hard. And if our bodies and our minds are beat up, it's only going to make it that much harder. But let me stop going on a rant today. I got to pass it over to Amy to pass along any information that is going on in the bunker.
Thanks, Mike. Yep. So not a lot this week. I mean, a lot, but not a lot. So it's basically one event, but it's 23 events. So the showcase, the Veterans in Residence 22B showcase, is happening June 1st in 23 cities across the country. So it's one event, but it's lots of events at the same time. So check it out at bunkerlabs.org/veterans-showcase and find a local city and event near you.
Love it. All right. Now to our guests, Sarah and Dustin. I got to be honest. Y'all got a special place in my heart. And here's why. I love micro businesses and the community that you all serve. My girlfriend runs a company called Sincerely Bade. So she sends handmade wellness products. So I'm always going to the pop-up markets with her here in New York City. And I just think there's something about that kind of maker, that pop-up community, people just making products in their kitchen or whatever else. And then people like you making it easier and more accessible for them to, have advantage of your hustle trucks and whatever. So I feel like that's a community that's very near and dear to my heart. So I'm excited to talk about that today, as well as what it's like to start a business with a spouse. Because look, I was about to ask y'all, I was like, man, do y'all got boxing gloves to spar when times get rough? It's like, how do you balance it all?
Yeah, we got a punch bag in the backyard.
Got a punch bag in the backyard. Got your sparring equipment. So let's start off by just having you all introduce yourself to our viewers tuning in today, and let us know what you got going on with Hustle Trucks.
Thank you. That's really nice. We actually do have a whole bunch of boxing equipment in the backyard, by the way. But my name's Sarah, and I'm half of this company. My husband and I began it about 2 years ago.
Dustin, U.S. Navy veteran, was building vans and got into hustle trucks.
So I had a chance to have Sarah on the Transition podcast, and I tell her, of all the business models I've heard brought up on the show, yours is one of the coolest, right? Because again, in the veteran entrepreneurial space, we've seen the coffee, the beer brands, the apparel brands, but I was like, hustle trucks, that's super interesting. And one of the things I'm big on these days is like markets, right? Like, how did you know that there was a market for what you guys were offering?
Oh, that's easy. It came to us. Yeah, it absolutely came to us. We had a reputation for being talented van builders, and people started asking us to build them professional vehicles, and in addition to recreational ones. And Dustin, we were at the pool, and he just had the idea to just build out a model, and we went for it.
Yeah. We were running a van conversion company out here in Los Angeles, and when 2020 hit, we started getting inundated with small businesses that wanted us to build boutiques, salons, plant shops, healing centers, whatever. But then once we would give them the full quote, they'd be like, oh, that's way too much money. So we figured if we just built a base model, we could take it from there, see how it went.
Now, have you guys always been business partners? What was that process like?
Not the whole time. Whenever we first met, we were both doing our own thing. And then at some point, your business got too big for you to handle.
Mm-hmm.
And I came in. It was around the time when the kids were staying home for school. So it just like made sense for me not to be trying to think coherently and do that, because that was impossible. So like in working with him in the van building business, it really gave me the opportunity to like work on my own time so I could devote my attention to the kids and to the house. Yeah, but it was pretty seamless. I mean, I probably wouldn't have chosen it. Like whenever we first met, I wouldn't have thought like, oh yeah, we're going to run these businesses together, but it works.
Yeah. We have such a complementary skill set that it made it work out pretty well.
How are you able to separate like the business, right, from like home discussions, right? Because I'm even struggling with like COVID, right? Like being in the same space, it's like this is where you live, this is where you work, you know. At a point in time, we couldn't go anywhere. This is where you worked out as well. And it's like mentally, it's like, oh, you can't have a shift. But I'm always curious about couples that kind of work together. It's like, you know, somebody's got to be in charge. I was a Marine, and they said if there was ever two Marines together, one's in charge. And so how do you balance that even with like communicating to each other?
We don't allow Marines in our house.
That's good. That's great.
It took us probably a bit of a year to figure out a balance of like when was time to work.
Yeah.
Like I'm not a morning person. She doesn't like to work in the evening. So like we had to find where we were both comfortable with like working. And then now we're on our way home. We've wrapped up business stuff and now we're home.
And that's it.
Yeah,
that's it. Like once I start, I enjoy cooking, so I take the lead on that all the time. But once I start that, like the workday's done. I'm not trying to talk about it at all. Just catch me tomorrow.
What's been the hardest part of working with your spouse?
I'd say not getting.
I apologize, but this has turned into like a therapy session. Like I'm really curious because that's the topic of the theme today.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For me, I would say that Sarah and I are both fiercely independent people, and we both come from the place of just like, oh, I'll just do it myself. But when you're running a business, like you can't, like I can't set up an electrical system and be a good customer service person.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Sarah can.
At least I think I can. No, sometimes I think that we spend all of our time together and then I'm still like missing you at the end of the day. Cause like work time isn't quality time. Like sure, we're together, but we're not like hanging out. You know what I mean? Like it doesn't count as quality time to me. So it's like we'll spend a whole 12-hour day working on stuff and still not really get time together, which is sort of weird.
Yeah.
One thing I've also been conscious of on all our platforms is just how many of our entrepreneurs do have families, right? So, you know, there's like this a scenario where the entrepreneur is just bouncing around, sleeping on couches, etc. But for a lot in our community, they've got spouses, they've got kids. How is that being an entrepreneur, right? Raising a family of your own while making sure that like the trucks are taken care of and your husband's taken care of or your wife's taken care of, etc.
It's definitely a challenge. Like I am a very organized person just by nature and very type A by nature. And I wake up in the morning and shot out of a cannon. Like I get my rest in and then I organize the entire day. So I can tell you like what I'm going to be doing at 3:00, at 7:00 in the morning. So that helps me. And then also having a partner to lean on is definitely like very, very helpful. But man, kids, they need so much stuff and sometimes out of the blue. And then it's just like traffic takes too long and like everybody is hungry and everything's dirty. And like you said, working from home, like we're actually living at work. So like you have all of these work responsibilities and laundry and it's so loud sometimes.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. And again, I think that's because we're different people. Sarah's organized. She sets up her schedule for the whole week on Monday morning and then like chips away at it and moves things along on her schedule. And I will do whatever I need to do whenever I got to do it. So like if something happens, I can just drop what I'm doing and take care of what's important and she's got the rest of it. So if the kids need to be picked up early, I don't mind setting down my tools and running out to get them because she's got all the rest of the stuff and I can pick my thing up later.
I think it's cool that your kids get to see the entrepreneurial journey. I just feel like it's so much of a part of like the American experience, and particularly around hustle trucks, right? Talk to us about the kind of entrepreneurs that you've been able to impact thus far. You got any examples of stories of people that have been super successful working with you all?
Yeah, I have a great one right off the top of my head. And she's actually a single parent who I met through the kids at school. Our kids all go to elementary school together. Her name's Chris, and she runs an online boutique called Trevu. And she had only been selling online and had all of this inventory and wanted to like do a pop-up shop and give it a go. So she was the first person to rent the truck and took it out and like had such a great day. And she's been a consistent customer, and she actually just bought her own truck. And she's full-time out there every day running a store wherever she wants to take it.
You know, I'm big on like category creation. I got a mentor, Chris Lockhead, and I'm just thinking as you're talking out loud, hustle trucks is like an entirely new category. It's a new market, right? This idea that you have these mobile pop-ups and you can go set up shop where people actually have foot traffic, or you go to events and stuff, etc. How has it been received by the broader like pop-up community? Are y'all known as like the hustle truck people?
We're starting to get recognition. Like I talked to somebody yesterday that knew of Sarah through her Instagram stuff, and her sister rented the truck from us at one point, and now they either want to buy one of our trucks or have us build them one. Like we will often, like we have our trucks parked outside of our house right now because we don't have a shop anymore. But people will drive by, stop, take pictures, and be like, "Oh, you're the hustle truck people." I'm like, yeah, yeah, we are.
And if I'm not mistaken, when I had you on the podcast, Sarah, that was right when you were starting out, right? Y'all were just kind of making that pivot into hustle trucks from the van life. How has what's the growth been like over the last year?
It's been really great. Yeah, so our fleet is bigger, and as soon as we get like a few logistical things in order, we'll have more than double the amount of trucks that we have now. And we also had sort of an aha moment where a woman who runs, I would say, a medium-sized company, rented the truck from us for a month to take it on a road trip. And she actually kept it for 3 months because like they were having so much fun and doing so well and meeting their customers and everything. And it just sort of clicked like, oh yeah, they're like, people can rent it for a day or a weekend or a week, but like there's a whole bunch of companies who would really like do well by taking the truck on a road trip. So we're like getting into that now too. It's been really fun figuring it out.
Yeah, that's really kind of category expansion, right? So like one thing I always tell our viewers of when they're launching a business, get started by going after that perfect customer in a specific market niche. But like you said, now you're able to get some data back and say, hey, I think there's an opportunity for us to expand beyond just the micropreneurs to companies that are looking to do some more activations. And so you've already got one, like you said, and they kept it for 3 months. Talk to us about your plan for continuing this route, working with more larger companies.
So like a bigger company that would use our trucks for like an experiential marketing thing is like a completely separate animal. I think what we decided that we're going to do is zero in on these companies who have a social media. Our customers live on Instagram, so like we consistently use those metrics to like prove our case. But customers who have like 250 to 500,000 followers on Instagram and have like an online shop that's running, we're just going to reach out like very old fashioned. We were talking about it, and both of us have the same experience of like any success that we've ever had has just come from asking. Yeah. Just directly asking somebody. So we're going to try this like new old fashioned approach to it.
So we're starting to identify medium-sized businesses or small businesses here in Los Angeles that have a physical location in a place like on Melrose Avenue or some other road you've heard of, and see if they want to expand into other markets. See, instead of buying another shop or getting a lease somewhere for $5,000 to $10,000 a month, maybe they want to rent our truck and bum around Phoenix for a couple weeks to see if it's going to work there. Or,
I like that. I really like the way you put that, because that lets you validate the market demand. So before you commit all in, you get a hustle truck, you go set up shop for a couple weeks, whatever. Now you've got that real customer feedback and say, hey, is this something we need to move forward with? Or do we need to go check out another location? Me being a Marine, like a hustle truck is a perfect recon. Get your recon element in there, get set up, and go get that market-based feedback.
Right.
Now, if I'm not mistaken, you also bootstrapped, if I'm correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Does that put an increased kind of financial strain when you're talking about like the relationship and, everything else in the business?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. We have no debt. Definitely are doing this all on our own. It adds an enormous amount of financial pressure, but I think that I'm very much an anxious type of person, and Dustin's very much a centered type of person. And I think we sort of come to the agreement to view that pressure as a gift and an opportunity to make the most of it, because now we've got a commitment that needs to be satisfied. So it's not something for me to be afraid of, but instead an opportunity for us to really do the thing and see like how far we can take it and like move intentionally, because there's a lot at stake. Yeah.
And because we're able to do all of our conversions in-house, it saves us all of the money versus having to hire somebody else to do it. So like the cost of materials versus the cost of labor is significantly different. Like I could build a truck in a week and we don't have to pay anyone else to do it. So I may not be getting paid for it today, but it works out later.
One thing that comes up a lot in the bunker is this access to capital, right? Everybody has these great business ideas and they think they're going to get venture capital and all this other stuff. But the reality of it is that's not the case. Only a small percentage. And sometimes people get frustrated. They're like, I got this great business idea, but I can't get any money. Here you are talking about doubling your fleet. You've already validated the business model. Clearly, y'all are on to something. What advice do you give to the community about bootstrapping and how they should approach it?
Oh, man.
Have a clear plan. Have people that want your thing before you dive into it. And like having a minimal value, what is it called?
Minimally viable product.
Minimally viable product. Having that before you invest all your time and your money into something that may not be the best. So like if you're, our first truck didn't have lights. It had some walls, it had some shelves that we just threw up. But then after, 100 different people renting it and talking to them, asking them what they would like and how like the experience would be better. Like we have overhead lights, we got outlets, solar panels, like we're ready for fans, but that's not where we started.
Yeah. See what works first. Like, I think it's really simple, especially if you're doing like a direct sales type of product, to buy all the things and have all the inventory and the cutest packaging and all the wrappers and everything. But like, you don't even know if you need that yet. So maybe just hold off for a minute. Like there's a way to make it work, figure that out, and then invest where it counts and where you'll actually see a return on it.
Now, a lot of your micropreneurs, how are they going about getting these retail licenses? Do they have to pay for that? Is that a big expense for a lot of them?
Oh, no. You need a seller's license in California, and they're free and they're available online. Yeah, it's a completely different animal than like being a food truck. Those are obviously very heavily regulated for good reason. But selling, candles and self-care things, just go.
So do you recommend when people are starting out selling that stuff that they get the license, do all that, or should they just start by like going to sell like 10 people?
I don't check for the license.
And since this is a mobile vehicle,
just
if anyone
leave.
else does, just leave.
That's right. We're creating a new category. Now I want to go back to the bootstrapping for a sec though. Cash flow. Okay. How do you deal with cash flow as a bootstrapper? How do you stay ahead of it?
So our overhead is very minimal. It's very minimal. And also understand that we are running another company too. That like, and while we have actually paused on the one to focus on this one, but while that was happening, we had a huge, we were able to eat up a lot of the cost with the revenue from the other company. So while that's been on pause, I guess the way we've stayed ahead of cash flow is like everybody else who runs a small business. I took on some freelance work, and that's it.
Hustling.
Yeah,
That's
like
it.
someone's going to pay me my high fair hourly rate that will cover the insurance for a couple months. So it's just investing where it counts type of thing.
I appreciate you sharing that because I just think it's a reality a lot of us are going to face. Sometimes you got to go do a little website design or whatever, to get some healthy cash into your business. Todd Connor wrote a book about it called Third Shift Entrepreneur. I was a third shift entrepreneur for a long time. I still do a little hustling here on the side, but it just comes with the territory. So I don't want those of y'all tuning in to feel guilty, but I don't feel like a real entrepreneur because I have to still, freelance on the side, etc. It's just that a lot of those stories don't get highlighted.
Yeah, I would say it's actually opposite. Like, we do not come from wealth. We don't have investors. We're doing this all on our own. And the fact of the matter is our business serves an entire community of people who are working outside of their regular 9-to-5 job. Like, every DM I get comes after 7 p.m. because it's people who are doing this in their spare time and on the weekends. It would be crazy if we weren't inspired by that and didn't do exactly what they were doing. Like, we are them.
That's right. We all are. So now for all our viewers tuning in, I apologize about this. Shout out to Josh Weldon, Ronald Long, Kenneth Stoffel. Kenneth says Hustle Trucks would do great in Chicago. If you've got any questions for Sarah and Dustin while they're on, feel free to go ahead and drop those in the chat. What we're going to do now is pivot to one of my favorite parts of the show, which are book recommendations. So Sarah and Dustin, you guys got any book recommendations for our viewers?
Yeah. At the beginning, you mentioned that it's important to take care of your mind, body, and spirit. I've been grinding real hard on that for the last couple of years, and I'd say that the most influential book that I've read was the Yoga Sutra by Patanjali. From beginning to end, it's a excellent resource to be able to find your center and purpose. It helps you enter that place in your mind where you can drill down to what's really important to you, what you're really supposed to be doing.
And what about you, Sarah?
The first one that comes to my mind is less spiritual, but more interesting. The Secret Life of Groceries by Benjamin Lohr. It's a really insightful, data-heavy look at grocery stores and how they started. And there's chapters on cardboard and shrimp, which sounds so boring, but it was the best book that I've read in a really long time.
Love it. My book recommendation for the week is Marketing for Developers by Justin Jackson. I had a chance to have Justin on the podcast last week. Check out the episode about identifying a market pool. This is super important because no matter how good of an idea you have, if there's no market for what you're offering, you will fail. And even worse, you might spend years failing, right? So you can kill an idea pretty quick if you're not getting paying customers. So really being intentional about the market that you're choosing to operate in, man, I wish I would have learned that so long ago. And Justin actually runs the company Transistor.fm, which hosts the Transition podcast, and they bootstrapped that, Sarah and Dustin. So he built it with a developer, him and his partner, 2 people, got it up to over $100K a month recurring revenue. So they're just off to the races. Nice. So he knows what he's talking about. And, we just don't I think in the bunker, as well as a broader veteran entrepreneurial community, we'll have the pitch competitions. We have all this kind of stuff. But the thing we don't do the best job, I think of, is really emphasizing to our founders, you have to be intentional about the market that you're choosing. I mean, even in your case, Dustin, right? It's not like when you guys launched Hustle Trucks, you didn't have any insights into the van life, right? You had already been working on them, outfitting these vans, right? You'd already been going to pop-ups. You knew what people were struggling with. So you were able to basically leverage your own expertise and experience into a market opportunity that you already knew, and you got paying customers versus companies that spend, the founders, right? They'll have a business and it seems like they're fighting tooth and nail for 6 years, right? They still haven't gotten any traction. They still haven't got anything. And it's listen, the reality of the situation is there just might not be a market for what you're offering, and that's okay. And that's usually when people pivot. So check out the book, Marketing for Developers, a guide to marketing your software apps and digital products whether or not you're building a digital product, super valuable just to understand how to have that market first mindset. And check out the Transition Podcast with Justin on it. I promise you will get a ton of value out of that episode. So as we wrap up here, we appreciate you all sharing your time with us, Sarah and Dustin. How can the community here at the Bunker elevate and support the work you're doing with Hustle Trucks?
There are, as you mentioned, most military businesses that we tend to start are to like get jacked up on caffeine or getting drunk, which you're not allowed to sell out of trucks. But there's going through the Bunker Labs incubator. We met a lot of people that had businesses that would benefit from using Hustle Trucks, and being able to raise the awareness of what we're doing across the country. As soon as we're able to find new markets and establish a need, and if enough people in Chicago do want it, reach out to us. Send us deposit. We'll build a truck, send it up, and you guys got a Hustle Truck.
Love it. Well, appreciate y'all tuning in and spend this time with us today. For everyone that's viewing, make sure you check out Hustle Trucks on their IG. Sign up for Sarah's newsletter. I get it. Every week you send it? Pretty much every week. Pops in my pops in my email box every week. And great branding, by the way. I really love the photography and everything. It's super dope. Also, we have the Transition Podcast to support everyone during the week. If you have not been paying attention and listening to the show, you are missing out. I've got some bomb episodes. Patrick Fitzgerald on how to develop your first business plan. Asia Arangios on how to successfully navigate your first go-to-market journey. I just mentioned Justin Jackson, who talks about that market pull, identifying that market demand. So if you listen to the Transition Podcast, I promise it will accelerate you on your entrepreneurial journey. I send out a newsletter every week where I try to share the latest episode of the Transition. So make sure you sign up for that as well. Head over to bunkerlabs.org. Get plugged into the ecosystem. We got programs that'll take you from idea to invoice, incubate you, and position you to grow alongside other founders and CEOs. I'd like to acknowledge our virtual event sponsors for the day, MetLife Foundation, and their commitment to supporting veteran and military spouses transitioning into the workforce. Also, Carrie is reminding me, you've got a great narrative video that dropped on Hustle Trucks that you can check out at bunkerlabs.org. These narratives are absolutely amazing. I feel like they add the story element. They show, the reality of what it takes to bring a venture to life. We've got your story. I know we've got a mobile cigar bar as well. And it's just an exciting time to be in a bunker. I mean, there's energy around veteran and military spouse entrepreneurship. If y'all can't feel it, you're missing out. Come into the community. We're here and engage our content. Head over to bunkerlabs.org and listen to the show. We'll be back on next week for another additional office hours. Until then, peace, love, and have a great rest of your week, everyone.